character is an important facet in our history. The role of women during that time and their strength to carry on work here in Australia when most of the men went overseas to serve. The strength of the Aussie digger, the courage and the way that French and people today even remember through stories from their grandparents about how kind the Aussie digger was and how courageous and how funny, which is part of us being Aussies. So that's a very proud sort of theme that goes throughout the book. The role of PTSD in a soldier's life, which is still unfortunately a current issue in our world today, and it's all tied together through a love story.
You have written the book. There's a bit of research. You also reached out to France in over the past to get this book written. Did you end up seeing these photos that were discovered in 2010? I did read something about it, and these were like, I don't know how many, over 1,500 photo glass plates that were discovered. Can you tell us a bit about how that was done?
Yeah, sure. It's called the Tulier Collection, and the photos were found in an attic in an old trunk, and Mr. Kerry Stokes sent some people from Channel 7. It was aired on the Sunday night program about 2010 about the discovery of, there's about 4,000 photos in this trunk, and about 800 of them are Australians. So unfortunately, because it was a behind-the-lines town, Vignacourt, where they were found, the boys would go off to war and come into Vignacourt and have a bath and get their hair cut and get brand new uniforms. But in having that happen, most of them didn't have identification on their sleeves. So a little entrepreneurial couple in the village started taking photographs of the boys because they all looked brand new, and it was a chance for the boys to have a bit of relax after being on the front lines. Consequently, the boys in those photos can't be identified because there's no battalion colour or anything on their sleeves. So 120 out of the 800 have been identified so far, and they've been brought back to Australia, and they live in the Australian War Memorial thanks to Kerry Stokes.
You have the Indigenous character in the book by Jimmy. Is that based on someone by the name of Jimmy that went over?
Look, I've had to put some names in there of people that I know. So, yes, I do know a Jimmy in my life, but I have been speaking with the Bachelor tribe in Childers because the town in Australia that the story is set is Childers, and I've spoken with the Indigenous elders up there, asking their advice and asking, they've read the book and they've agreed with many of the things that I put in there, and that was good to me because I'm not an Indigenous person, but I wanted to share the story of Jimmy because he's my favourite character, if I have to be honest with you. He is funny, he is courageous, he is brave, he's loyal, and he's exactly the sort of fella that you would want with you when you're facing a world war.
Do you know if there's any films depicting World War One that because of Indigenous men went to fight? And I myself personally hadn't seen anything out there with film that depicts the aspect of that.
No, I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. In fact, it probably wouldn't go into the depth that I go into with Jimmy and his mother, Lizzie, back here in Australia. And, of course, it doesn't go into what happened to our diggers on their return because many of them, and just our, Caucasian guys as well as our First Nations people, all wanted to go to the war thinking it was an adventure, but the Indigenous boys had a harder time because many of them couldn't write and there weren't papers and birth certificates, etc., etc. But this character in this book has a great mate who signs him on as his brother. And there is one photo in the Tulier collection of an Indigenous fellow with his mate from Australia. So that sort of inspired me to dig into that picture and looking at that picture and looking at that face and trying to make up a story about him. So no, I don't think there are many, Quentin. And I think as you've read the book, I think when it comes on the screen, it's really going to tug at some heartstrings.
Yeah, and speaking of going on screen, hopefully it's in. It's right now in pre-production, and it's green lit, hasn't it?
Well, Screen Queensland has supported us all the way now. We're at the finance stage, so we're just collecting the final bits of money that we need, and then we go to casting.
And
so
how?
The script is already, we're very happy with the script. So the script happened first before the novel. So we started 6 years ago, so it's been a very long journey. And then we thought, we want this story out there. Our main reason to do this was to identify more of the soldiers in the photographs. And then we thought, well, let's try the movie. And it was too hard, and COVID hit, and there were too many obstacles. So we decided to put the novel out, and the movie will follow the novel. So, pre-production with Screen Queensland so far.
Because I read the book, and there's a lot of layers in that. And when it comes to script, I mean, how much say do you have to make it faithful for the book? Or are you sort of flexible to sort of creative license into the script may not appear in the book?
Yeah, so we've listed it as a historical fiction, and all of the soldiers in the story are real soldiers from the collection, and many of the names are relatives of people that we have been working with over the past 6 years. Yes, it's true when it comes to being on screen, it's a different genre than writing a novel. So there may be changes, but there are some things I won't change. The Indigenous soldier in particular, the PTSD, well, all of those sorts of things are really precious to me. We have worked with the people of Childers and the people of Vinacor really closely for 6 years, and we want to make them proud of their stories, and so there are some things that are non-negotiable to me to be changed, but I understand that once something gets to the screen, it has to change a little. I was disappointed that the story itself, I had to give an ending in the novel, because that's why I wanted the movie out first, because it doesn't give the ending. And I wanted people to gather around afterwards, having a drink of coffee or whatever, and say, oh, where does he end up? Does he go back to Australia? Does he stay in France? But the novel gives the ending. So if you're the sort of person who doesn't want to know the ending, see the movie first and then read the novel, or make up your own ending. So yes, there is a difference in genre, but I can see them on the screen. I can see Rosie, I can see Bill, I can see them, I can see Vinacor, I can see Childers. So yeah,
all right,
it's coming.
Okay, well, all the best with the whole thing, the whole package, and hopefully we'll get to see it. Are you thinking of having it filmed here in Australia, especially with the French scenes?
Absolutely. So Childers, we are hoping to have a shoot in Childers, so because Screen Queensland is behind us. And with COVID, and we're not sure about actually filming in France. We'll see how the financial package goes with that. But we have people in Melbourne interested too. So, we will recreate Vinacor in Australia if we have to, perhaps drone footage in France. I'm actually going over to France to launch the book at Villebrequin during Anzac Week, and Vinacor and the Caves of Now, which are mentioned in the story. So we're boosting the French connection as we speak. So yes, we'll see what happens, Clayton.
Brilliant. Well, Donna, thank you so much for joining me on the line. All the best with the book and the film. Donna Fiechtner, the author of Photos in the Attic. And I'm going to play some Midnight Oil right now to relating to the theme. Forgotten Years, if you familiar with that song, Donna?
Yes, brilliant choice.
Okay. Thanks, Donna, so much for your time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.